we will take the blue twisted pair, put it in the run of the T, and allow it to come out the branch of the T. We want to keep the frame as close to the position that we're going to have it into in its final configuration, final assembly configuration. You don't need to hammer the vehicle together just yet. Now, the next component to go into the frame is going to be a 4-inch piece. There's two 4-inch pieces of tubing. And they go right here into the run. Okay. It's very important to make sure you do this correctly. So always check your pieces, because once these pieces are installed, they're hard to get out, especially when they're hammered together. Now I noticed that I had grabbed the wrong length of pipe, and these are the 4-inch pieces. And these 4-inch pieces now will go into the run of the T's. And on the port side, there's no wires going through it, but on the starboard side, there is the orange and brown pair which are going through there. Now, you may be wondering why I haven't hit these parts together with a mallet just yet. The reason for that is I don't want to get to the point where I need to hit any component that on the end that has wire coming out of it. So I'm at a point now where if I put this T on here, and this is where it goes, right? The branch goes on that 4-inch piece, and the other T with the hole on the bottom goes on the starboard side with both of the wires coming out the branch, okay, like this. Now, as you can see, I can tap on these ends, compressing this all the way down and not worry about hitting any wires that are coming out, because there are no wires anymore coming out this end. Okay. I can also hit this side with a mallet and compress this connection, because again, there are no wires coming out. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do that, and you must have a surface over here, like this, that's firm, or else any of the compression you do won't be totally absorbed by the PVC. So I'm going to tap this now. Okay. Now that compresses this side, and I'm making sure that my T's are in the vertical position. Okay. They might be a little off, but we can adjust for that later. So I'm going to tap this side. Now, remember that I told you the 1.5" coupling, okay, or nipple, is just long enough so that 3/4 of that length goes here, and the other half is here. That 3/4 inch allows these two fittings to be what we call made up as tight as they possibly can. Now, I'm going to take my assembly and I'm going to tap this connection down this way. You'll notice there's a distinct difference in the sound that the hammer makes when the tubes are tightly together. So here we go. We were taking very special care to make sure that we didn't damage any of our wires because they are quite delicate. The next assembly we're going to do is to take two of the 5-inch pieces that have the holes drilled in them, okay? These holes are at a location where the motors will be mounted between these two holes and the last hole, which as you can see goes all the way through. We see that? It goes all the way through. That's the hole we're going to use to adjust the position of the thruster, to make sure it's pointing straight back after we hit everything together. So these two pieces will be our rear motor mount tubes for our forward and reverse thrusters. The hole, the tube will go into the fitting first from the end with the hole closest to the end of the pipe. That will be down. So it will go in like this. Right? It won't go in exactly like that because it's going to be pointed 90 degrees inward. So that when you put these tubes in place finally, the holes will be facing each other. But we first have to feed the wires into the tube. So we'll start, it doesn't matter which side you start on, but we'll start to go through the port side. Now it's critical, very critical, that the wire come out one of the top two holes. Either one doesn't matter as long as it does not come out the bottom hole. It may be a little helpful if you just curve the end slightly. Pull it through ever so gently and then just push it into place. Okay. We'll do the same with the starboard side. We'll just curve it up a little bit, like that, and we'll stick it in the short end, I call it, with the wire coming out. Ever so gently, with the holes facing each other. It's really important to make sure that you get these holes as close as possible now to the final location that will be facing each other. It's important to know that why we select this hole, either one of these holes, for the control wire to come out of. The reason being is when you insert a screwdriver into this hole to adjust the position of the pipe, if that wire was coming out this hole, it would be almost impossible to avoid pinching the wire between the hole and the screwdriver. So we don't want that to happen. So we don't want it to come out one of those holes, and that's really important. So we're going to put these now in place, and the next tubes we put in will be these 2.5-inch nipples. One goes in this branch of the T, that T, and the other one we will feed the wires, the orange and brown pair, through there. Now you say, why are we using the brown pair? We're not going to use the brown pair. We're going to save the brown pair in case one of the other wires becomes damaged and we need to use it to control one of the motors. Okay? So it's a spare. So at this point, we're going to take our spare wire and we're going to simply coil it up. Now remember, this is at its longest point, so you most probably don't need all of it. So we'll go ahead and snip off some of it. And then we will tuck this back into this tube. Now remember, you can disassemble this frame just by tapping with a hammer and taking it apart and pulling the brown wire out, okay, to be used later. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take, there's one more motor mount tube, and that's a 4.5-inch motor mount tube. Okay. And it's difficult to assemble this. I shouldn't say difficult, but it's a little bit more involved. And to assemble this with this wire, trying to feed it up through the 90 and then out the end of the hole here. But it's a little bit more intense, but not that difficult. So we're going to put this on here just so we have a place to put it. And then we're going to take the orange wire, and again we're going to feed it into the 4.5-inch motor mount hole. And now these holes in their final position will be facing towards the back of the vehicle. Remember, the back of the vehicle is the part where the blue wire comes out of. So we're going to put it down like that. Okay. Then we're going to take another 90, and I just loosely put this on here for a reason. Okay. So it would be easier to assemble with the wire in place. So I put these two 90s on here. Now, as you can see, we tap this whole frame together, but without this cross piece being tapped together, it won't fit. It's too wide. Okay. So what I'm going to do, now that I have this set pretty much where I want it, I'll just take this. Remember, the orange wire is pretty long, so I'm going to take this over to my tapping table. And again, I don't have to tap on anything that has a wire coming out of it. Okay, so I'm going to hold this firmly in place. And now, still the wire's coming out. And now, there you go. This is a 4.5-inch piece. This is a 4.5-inch piece. So the frame is relatively square now. So there we go. So here we have the frame